Welcome back to For Real. My name's Claire and today I'm going to be looking at something that is fairly important to me as a lover of Cambodia. You know, when you watch YouTube or you look online to see what people say about Cambodia, you'll often come across those lists that say these are the top 5 things about Cambodia, or these are the 10 reasons that you should visit Cambodia. And always in the top of those lists is the people. But what do people actually mean when they say that? Are they talking about simple friendliness, or is it something more? And I thought the best way to answer that question is to look at 4 little stories from my own experience of being in Cambodia, 4 incidents that really kind of spoke to me about who the Cambodian people are and how they kind of behave in day-to-day situations. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope if you have your own stories, you'll add them in the comments, because I'm really interested to hear your own experiences as well. So let's get started. All right, story number 1 takes place in our second Siem Reap apartment. It was April 2020 and fear of COVID was taking hold around the world. I remember Jeremy and I used to watch the COVID numbers on that YouTube live stream that was just a cycle of numbers constantly increasing. I'll put a screenshot here just so you can remember what it was like. It was pre-vaccination and we were just starting to get a sense that things were about to implode globally. Australia's borders were closed and it was the start of our period of being stuck in Cambodia. Many expats had chosen to leave in the preceding month, and there was even a Facebook group for expats who'd chosen to remain in Siem Reap rather than returning to their own country. It was called Riding Out the Rona in the Reap. Those were the days. Anyway, against this backdrop, people were becoming very scared to go to the supermarket or the market, and there was certainly a sense of fear of foreigners at that point too. PPE was as scarce as toilet paper was in Australia at that time, and what little there was disappeared from the shelves in seconds. Our apartment building was owned by a lovely couple who always used to bring us fruit from their garden, and they really treated us like family at a time when we needed it. The incident of note occurred one morning when our landlady came to the door and gave us 2 face shields that her husband had made for us. He had looked at designs online and bought the items he would need in order to make them himself. Our landlady gave us the masks and said we would now be able to go to the market safely. This concern for our well-being was so nice, and we just appreciated it so much at the time. I just wanted to show you something that our landlady just brought. So in addition to another bag full of mangoes, smell amazing, her husband has been busy making these. How nice is that? She said if we go to the markets, they'd be much safer to wear than a normal face mask because they cover everything. Just such lovely people. So there's 2 of those there, 1 for both of us. Incident number 2 takes place in Kampot. It was the middle of 2021 and Cambodia was beginning to roll out its COVID vaccinations. The campaign was being undertaken province by province, and at that point cases were popping up around Kampot, and we had a sense that the walls were closing in a bit. We discovered that it was possible to get a COVID vaccination if we went to a province where the vaccine rollout was already occurring. So we could have gone to Phnom Penh, but at that time there were a lot of cases there, and it felt like it was just safer to cross the provincial border into Sihanouk province instead. So we hired a car and a driver to take us to the vaccine location in Sihanouk province that was closest to the border with Kampot province. Needless to say, there was very little English spoken at that location, and the driver was central to us being able to get that vaccination at the time. It was July and the middle of the rainy season. If you've ever found yourself on the road between Kampot and Sihanoukville, you'll know that it's an incredibly rough road full of massive potholes, and in the wet season it just becomes 1,000 times worse. It gets really slippery with very, very fine mud, and the ruts left by big truck wheels are actually big enough for an elephant to take a bath in, no lie. So driving on this road in the wet season is really difficult, and it's quite uncomfortable even in a car. We were driving back towards Kampot when our driver suddenly pulled over, stopped the car and got out. We didn't know what was going on. A few minutes earlier, we didn't realise, but he had driven into a muddy pothole and that had splashed a rider on a motorcycle. The driver of our car then sped up a little to get ahead of the motorbike, And the reason he stopped the car and got out was to stand on the road, put his hands together in a prayer gesture and bow as the motorcyclist went past. He wanted the motorcyclist to know that he was sorry that he had splashed mud on him. This really impressed on me how important it is to Cambodian people to treat each other well. I saw examples of this so many times, but this particular incident definitely illustrated it perfectly to me. The next two stories are to do with acts of charity. I know that charity is important in Buddhism, but to see it in action in the community was something special. The third story takes place in the unlikely location of a hair salon in Kampot. I was visiting a lovely local hairdresser to have some colour work done, and in case you don't know, once the colour is put on your hair, there's a fair bit of waiting around for it to develop. Jeremy is always blown away that the process can take hours, and he always wonders where I've been. This case was no different. So there I was, waiting around and watching the goings-on in the street when I noticed a really old lady coming along, pulling a cart full of flattened cardboard boxes. She was one of those people that collects recycling. The lady appeared very unkempt, her clothes were really dirty, and she clearly had advanced osteoporosis. I'd seen her in the streets before, as Kampot is small and you tend to recognise people. Anyway, the lady was passing the hair salon when my hairdresser went outside and began to speak to her. Turns out she was asking the lady if she would like a coconut. Next thing, she was helping the old lady up the steps and into the salon. Once she was seated, the hairdresser took the lady's hand and began to clean and trim her fingernails. When the old lady had left, the hairdresser explained to me that she was homeless and usually slept outside at a house where the owners let her park her cart. She also told me that at other times she washed the lady's hair for her. These small acts of tenderness really impressed on me how important it is for people in Cambodia to care for each other, particularly those less fortunate. Having someone care for her like that must have been such a welcome relief from a very hard life for that lady. And without a well-developed social security system, generosity and giving what you can are really important. Our final story also features a woman pulling a cart to collect cardboard for recycling, but this one takes place early on a Sunday morning in Phnom Penh's Tul Tumpong, or Russian market. I was walking towards Bung Tumpun and was filming for another video when I saw this lady stop her cart near where some monks were giving an alms blessing. She took off her shoes and placed something in the monks' alms bowls. I'm not sure whether it was food or money. The monks then gave her a blessing. I guess what this incident showed me was how Cambodian society is a cycle. Everyone gives what they can relative to what they have, and the blessing this woman received was the same as she would have received no matter what or how much she was able to give to the monks. The philosophy seems to be that the more you have, the more you should give. I guess this has been seen recently when wealthy Cambodians together donated $11 million for landmine clearance. I know this story probably speaks just as much to Buddhism and culture as it does to generosity, but it's a scene that I don't believe would be common in the West. So those are the 4 stories that I wanted to share with you. I'd love to hear your stories, as I said before. If you've got your own, it would be great to hear them down in the comments. Before we finish up today, I'd like to give a shout out to some of the people that are making content in Cambodia. So we've got Mark from Mark's Mildly Interesting. He was there recently and he's got lots of new content up at the moment. Ryan and Sarah are back from their trip to Canada. Kelly and Dave are up in Siem Reap making content there, and Robin's in Phnom Penh making his amazing content as well. So the links to all of those are in the comments section, or actually, no, in the description of this video. So be sure to go and have a look at those people. As always, an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.